Hey everybody, this is Good to Know. I'm your host, Lindsay Boach, and we're here to brighten your day with a colorful display of positivity. Today, we're shining a light on people using their voice and their talents to create a positive change. Sometimes it's as simple as a spinning colorful display. First, let me paint you a picture. Artist Carly Mariel was doing a few protest pieces in Denver.
And this is like George Floyd's portrait, right?
She got an icy reception at first.
And then all of a sudden I hear this big something hitting, like impact, but like 2 feet to my left.
Someone threw a drink at her. Now enter the Parasol Patrol.
We're not a security force. We're not a politically motivated counter-protest group or protest group. We just want to keep people safe.
Using a shield of rainbow umbrellas, the Parasol Patrol keeps the artists protected.
I feel very safe. I feel like I can paint.
The LGBTQ organization actually doesn't normally work with artists, but rather kids, oftentimes shielding them from protesters. And look who just happened to show up.
I love they were like, we're painting a rainbow ocean.
That makes us feel good to be able just to brighten anyone's day.
And they didn't even know it. They were participating in history, right?
A colorful display of a community working together.
It's not about any one of us, it's about all of us.
Creating positive change. And isn't that good to know?
We have to create a better tomorrow today.
Things can change. You just have to have an open heart and, and quit using all this negativity.
Still on the loose. Are you kidding?
Like, it doesn't feel real. It seems like a movie just going on.
It just warms my heart. It really does.
This is my happy place. This is my happy place.
Today we have stories from all across the country, and they all have one thing in common: people making positive changes in their communities. We start in New York, where one doctor is pushing for a change.
I call her Lucy.
When Dr. Camila Phillips, an OB/GYN in Manhattan, asks for Lucy in the operating room, she'll often get a puzzled look in return until she provides the backstory, a lesson in medical history of who Lucy was and the painful role she had in the creation of this tool.
Well, Lucy was an 18-year-old who had an obstructive labor and developed a fistula. And he operated on Lucy without anesthesia in front of a group of other doctors. The accounts are as horrific as you can imagine.
The he Dr. Phillips is referring to is Dr. James Marion Sims, often called the father of modern gynecology. He is the inventor of what's commonly called the Sims instrument. It's still used today to treat a fistula, a complication caused in childbirth. The successes of Dr. Sims to the field of medicine were revered at one point, but then overshadowed by his own documented research and his use of enslaved women for experimental treatments without their consent and without anesthesia. One of those women was Lucy, who was just 18 years old and nearly died as a result of the painful operation she endured at the hands of Dr. Sims.
In learning that story, it was my absolute decision that I was renaming the instrument while in my operating room, because I wasn't going to give honor to a man who operated on the backs and developed instruments on the backs of women who looked like me.
It's why Dr. Phillips says she is reclaiming this moment in medical history and honoring the women Sims operated on. On social media, that is the story resonating with others, doctors who say they too will start calling this Lucy.
Using his personal life experience, a football coach in Kentucky is trying to tell his story to start a conversation and make positive change there.
Before David Jones was the head coach of Bourbon County, the former UK defensive back was the second African-American head football coach in Eastern Kentucky history.
Y'all understand that?
used to be.
Decades prior, his first experience with racism took place in a small town in West Virginia.
12, 13 years old, and a Klan member threw a homemade bomb in my grandmother's house. Rushing to something like that at a young age, it really, and thank God it did not go off. They caught the guy and all that, but you know, it really changed me.
Another turning point in his life came a few years later. That's when his basketball coach, David Cook, adopted him as one of his own.
You know, he raised me like his own, and he was a white guy. And I never could trust anybody, no white guy. I couldn't trust anybody like that, you know, and you know, he just showed me trust. He changed my life, man. I just seen a different side of everything. Things can change. You just have to have an open heart and, you know, and quit, you know, using all this negativity.
But it wasn't that simple. Racism still affected him.
He lost a lot of business because, you know, he announced me as his son.
He dealt with more when he moved to Lexington. He remembers getting lost on the road with a friend and being pulled over by 8 police officers.
You know, I was scared of my life, man. It was just an eye-opener when I came up here. I'm used to being back home. I get pulled over by a cop. He say, hey, I'm going to tell your dad if you don't slow down.
With everything going on right now, Jones is angry. He's hurt. But as a young black leader in America, he's doing what he can to spread positivity and love.
If you have a voice, you know, you can spread your voice. You can either be positive about it or you can either be negative about it. And if you have a voice and you're in a position to speak to someone and you know that they're going to listen, you have to have a positive message. You have to know how to speak. You know, I know people can change, you know, if they can see it. But people have to have an open mind to be able to do that.
That would require listening to what is being asked.
Are you kidding? David Jones.
Look, I just sent you a friend request. There's a newfound brotherhood in the city of Richmond. No, seriously, set that up with your attorney because I'd love that. Richmond business owner Marquise Rose and Richmond police officer Christopher Shore formed a friendship 4 days ago during protests in the city.
Something told me just to show the world, get on Facebook and show them all of the issues that happened that night. I'm in my home city, downtown Richmond, Virginia.
Rose says he made his way to Lombardy Street.
This is where they broke into the Starbucks,
where several stores had been looted and damaged.
But then you got people that do stuff like this. This is not protesting.
So I just went up and just struck up a conversation with him.
The way that it works is we will operate off what they call a continuum of force, okay?
Rose says once the conversation started, his views began to change.
As we began to talk, the audience came around and we was just still having conversation. And I was like, wow, every officer is not the same.
And it was great because they asked all these direct questions. What our use of force policy was, what restraining techniques we use. His video, recorded on Facebook Live, reached thousands of people and was shared hundreds of times. We already don't do chokeholds. We already don't do a maneuver that puts our knee on somebody's neck. We already police each other, as in if we see an officer getting upset or is getting emotional on the scene, we remove them from that.
Every officer is not a bad officer. And I want people to know that, whether they're black, white, Hispanic, whatever color, but at the same time, there are some bad officers out there. And those officers need to be identified, removed from the streets, or as we say, retrain officers with people like Officer Shore hopefully can train them.
Oathmen want the community to know that it's possible for police and the people they serve to communicate and understand one another better.
We need more brotherhood.
Absolutely.
And I know he's a Caucasian male and I'm an African-American male, but the community starts here. It's not about color, and that's what we need today.
Absolutely.
There's still so much more that's good to know. Good deeds come with big reward in this teen's community.
Like, it doesn't feel real. It seems like this is like a movie just going on.